The sexless marriage, one of these things that no one really wants, no one really desires, and yet, unfortunately, it's quite a common thing. So in this video, I want to talk about a couple things that you can do in order to overcome that sexless marriage and reignite that spark back into the relationship. Let's do it. First and foremost, one of the most important pieces is you kind of want to understand the root causes. What are the reasons that we don't have sex in our partnership anymore? Because there can be so many various situations and reasons of why that is the case. Some of them might have to do with you, some of them might have to do with him. Maybe there's a bunch of stress at work, or he's completely overwhelmed with some other family issues or some health issues. Maybe there's certain medication that changed his libido. Maybe it's because you're just not as attracted to anymore as what you were a few years ago, because you kind of were slacking a little bit of taking care of your own health and your own appearance. Maybe there's some emotional triggers that are in between the two of you, so you're a little bit more in this okay, we're in that type of mode rather than actually being in a loving, beautiful environment. So there's some issues in the communication that you guys have with each other. Maybe the kids are sleeping with you every day in the bed. Maybe you're just completely be drawn out because you just became that prisoner and that slave of the routines and the repetitive habits and patterns. So many reasons, right? You can see how much of an impact it has. So you kind of want to understand what are the root causes for these issues in the intimacy between the two of you. So it requires some self-reflection. It requires a very open dialogue between the two of you. And I know sometimes these conversations are easier with some men and with some others not so much. And there's a little bit more of this avoidance. And then you want to look into what potential emotional factors can be involved here as well. Like I said, including the physical attraction that someone might not feel as much, or you don't feel as much to him anymore. Because often what I find when that are either very successful, or they just work a lot, they eat crappy junk food, they drink a lot in order to numb all this intensity and kind of being able to let go of it. And then what happens is they just gain a bunch of weight and they don't have the time to get into the gym, right? So that's the first one. You want to understand the root causes of what's happening here and why is it happening here. And like I said as well, this requires some really objective self-reflection on your end and the relationship itself. And ideally, obviously, both of you guys are doing this. The second piece is the first thing that I want to give you in order to reignite that spark and make some shifts and changes. So if you never heard about the Superman gene, then today is the day that your life is going to change forever, because the Superman gene is something that I find is so essential for every single man, and no one really talks about this. But basically what it is you want to help your man to tap back into his hero instinct. Meaning you want to put him in a position you're my hero, he feels he's so needed. He's this instinctual drive that every man has for meaning and purpose in his life. And meaning and purpose in his life, not just within the context of the relationship, but actually outside of it. That's one of these big differences between men and women. Women can find true fulfillment and satisfaction through the relationship. Men don't. There needs to be meaning and purpose outside of that too, because we need to find our purpose. It's not just having a family, it's one of these biggest beautiful things, right? But there's this other thing for us men as well. So if you can help him to be that Superman, to be the hero, to be your hero, to feel wow, I admire you so much, and you really allow him to tap into that Superman gene, the way how he's gonna feel is obviously absolutely amazing. And then he's gonna understand she makes me feel that way. So his connection and also his emotional relationship with you will be different, because he feels awesome. He realizes he feels awesome around you. So obviously you're gonna be awesome too. So that's one of these things that no one talks about this. Actually, no one has claimed that. That's our claim, the Superman gene. So yeah, once I found that the Superman gene and that hero instinct is so essential and crucial to change the whole family dynamic, because you're allowing him to tap into that very important piece of purpose and meaning and fulfillment beyond the relationship. Super, super powerful. And then he's going to translate that back into the relationship. So both of you guys win. Hi. Did you know there's an ancient formula that can show you exactly what you need to do in order to experience the life and the love of your dreams? I'm going to share a little secret with you because I teach this formula to all of my private clients, and the results that they have achieved just from these insights alone is absolutely incredible. And I call it the love alignment equation. And for a very short time, I'm inviting you to participate in a free 50-minute love alignment call with me or a member of my heart-to-heart team. All you have to do is click the link in the description, and if there's a booking link with available times, then you still have a chance to reserve your spot. So act fast before I decide to close this offer again. The third piece kind of like goes straight into this. You want to reignite that emotional intimacy. Now, obviously, for you women, it's super, super important to have that emotional connection in order to open up physically and intimately, right? And for men, often it's the other way around. It's like, okay, that emotional connection is going to be built so much more when there's also that physical intimacy alive. Essentially, what we want to figure out is like, how can we bring these two together? There is, yes, you want to spend a lot of quality time. You want to step out of the routines. You want to create new triggers. You want to create a new stimulus, many, many new stimulus. Because if you stay in these repeating patterns and almost like a little bit of this platonic type relationship dynamic, rather than you actually being lovers, yeah, you might be parents, and yeah, you are friends as well, but you're also lovers. You know, you're husband and wife, you're partners, you're lovers. And that understanding is so, so important. And then like, what is that actually going to look like if we're lovers? How much are we actually taking time for that love? Rather than just taking time for the responsibilities and taking time for the things that we need to be hold ourselves accountable for here, and how we need to take care of our kids, and how we need to take care of jobs, and blah, 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 blah. But what about you taking care of the lover aspect within the relationship? So that's really, really important, and that's going to help you for that emotional intimacy, because intimacy for a man also doesn't mean sex all the time or this physical piece of intimacy. No, there's so much more. So bring in new experiences, create some new adventures, have some variety, you know, not just in the bedroom, but also leading up all the way until you end up in the bedroom. Number 4, how to get rid of a sexless marriage is communication. And I understand, you know, many women would say, it's like, yeah, but my man doesn't want to communicate with me. Okay, we can stop right there, because then, okay, then just nothing's going to change. Or another option is like one of these things that I find very often happen between men and women, because we don't communicate the same way. That's a fact, right? The way how women communicate, the way how men communicate is entirely different. And if everyone just stays on their side, then like, how are we going to be able to communicate? But it's like, you know what, let me come closer. Okay, let me come closer as well. That's a different story. So if you learn and if you understand and figure out ways and strategies and skills, which actually you can do alone, you don't even need to have your husband so much involved. There's so many tools and tricks and tips and exercises and ways how you can actually start communicating with him in a different way. And he doesn't even know that you do anything different. And yet the communication style, the way how you're engaging with each other, will shift and change and adapt. Which also includes conflict resolution. You know, yes, men are problem solvers. And sometimes you don't want any problems to be solved. I get that. That's also why and how we are very, very different. However, proper, good, effective communication skills, including conflict resolution, is so, so, so important, that we're willing to like, okay, whatever the reasons are here, why we don't have sex with each other, let's talk about this from a loving, caring, supportive type way, rather than like, you did this and that's why I don't do this. And like, that's not going to get you anywhere. But having deep, honest, transparent, open communication and a dialogue with your partner, and being willing to listen to all the things that I'm like, I don't want to hear it, and it's so uncomfortable, and like, it's maybe even painful and maybe disappointing, but that's the path that's also super, super important to make some shifts and changes in your relationship, because you're stepping back into the reality and into the alignment with truth. And only there we can actually make some shifts and changes. And then the 5th one, which I think is equally powerful to all the other ones, maybe even a tiny little bit more in some ways. It's like, if you redirect and shift your focus rather than consistently staying in touch with the problem. Well, we don't have sex, we need to do something about this, and like, why aren't you attracted to me, and what's here and what's there? Like, if you constantly talk about the problem, you're just accentuating and elevating the problem. So if you redirect your focus and it's like, okay, let me make my life so amazing and so awesome, and I'm actually figuring out ways how I can fill up my own cup in different ways that I maybe haven't done it before. And maybe we can do some of these things together, like exploring some new hobbies together, figuring out ways how you can personally find some fulfillment outside of the relationship. As I mentioned, this could be hobbies, this could be cooking, this could be some other friends that you haven't spent much time with in the past. Whatever it may be, invest some time in your personal growth, in like developing yourself and finding these different sources of energy that light you up, that make you feel alive, that fill up your cup. Because now all of a sudden you have a bunch of new inspirations, new energy sources of creativity, of sexuality, of like whatever it may be, because it's all like part of creating, right? Sexual energy is the energy of creation. So if you start to create a bunch of things in different ways somewhere else, then you can bring that back into the relationship. He's going to look at you differently, because now all of a sudden it's not just, again, we need to talk about this nagging thing. And I was like, no, she's going to come with a totally different vibe and energy. And she's excited and she's joyful and she's positive because she started to create a life that is so amazing and so awesome. That internal shift of her energy, he's going to feel it. He wants to be part of it. He's probably going to see, it's like, okay, now she does this and this, and then she goes to the gym, and then she goes to like yoga with her girlfriends. Like, I need to catch up with my dudes and go to the gym with them again. Like, maybe, that's also an inspiration for him. And then you take all of these different reasons, all of these different parts that I just mentioned in terms of the 5 things that you can do in order to shift and change, activate the Superman gene, and therefore the hero instinct that he has. Bring in more variety. Create a life that is so awesome. Have deep communication skills, including the conflict resolution. All of these things will definitely help you in one way or another to shift your marriage from a sexless marriage to reigniting that spark and creating a new level of intimacy with them.